Hi kids, this is a story about a mole and a rat and the river, and it's called Wind in the Willows. I hope you like it, we'll see. The mole had been working very hard all morning spring cleaning his little home, first the broom, then the duster, then on ladders and steps and chairs, with a brush and a pail of whitewash. He had dust in his eyes, in his throat, splashes of whitewash all over his black fur, and an aching back and weary arms. Spring was moving in the air above and on the earth below and around him. And although he loved his lovely home, he wanted to go above into the spring. It was a small wonder then that he suddenly flung down his brush on the floor and said, "Bother! Oh, blow!" Hang spring cleaning, and bolted out of his house. He scribbled and scrabbled and scraped and scratched and scrooged, and finally, working very busily with his paws, he said, "Up, up, up we go," till at last he popped his snout out into the sunlight and he found himself rolling in the warm grass of the grassy meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "This is better than whitewashing." The sun struck hot on his fur. Soft breezes went through his fur and round his face. All of a sudden he could hear the birds around him, flapping and chilling and flying. He could hear shouts and laughter. Jumping on all fours, with joy in his heart and delight, he sprang and ran along the way, through the hedges, along the side, when all of a sudden... "Hold up," said an elderly rabbit at the gate. "Sixpence for the privilege of passing by the private road." He was bowled over. In an instant, impatient and contemptuous, the mole, who trotted along the side of the hedge, chaffing the other rabbit as they peered hurriedly from their holes to see what the row was all about. Onion sauce, he remarked jeeringly, and was gone before they could even think what he was talking about. Then they all stared, grumbling at each other. "How stupid are you? Why didn't you tell him? Why didn't you say? You might have reminded him," and so on. And of course, the mole was gone, and the rabbits didn't get any sixpence. All seemed too good to be true. Hither and thither through the meadows, Moley rambled, along the hedgerows, across the copses, finally finding everywhere birds birding, nests, flowers budding, leaves thrusting. Everything was happy and progressive. And instead of having an uneasy conscience pricking him and whispering, "Whitewash," he somehow could only feel how jolly it was to be on the only idle mole among all these busy citizens. After all, the best part of a holiday is perhaps not so much to be resting yourself as to see all the other fellows busy working. He thought his happiness was complete. As he meandered aimlessly along, suddenly he stood by the edge of a river. Never in his life had he ever seen a river. It gurgled, it splashed, it shook, and there he stood. The whole river, shaking, shivering, glinting, gleaming, sparkling, rustling, whirling, chattering, bubbling. The mole was bewitched. By the side of the river he trotted as one trots, when very small, by the side of a man who holds one spellbound by exciting stories, and when tired at last he sat on the bank, while the river, still chattering on to him, bubbling and progressing along, he spied 2 sparkling little diamonds across the way. He looked. There was a dark hole, and in the bank opposite, just above the water edge, again he caught this sparkling. All of a sudden he realised it was 2 eyes looking at him. For an animal with few wants and fond of bijou riverside residence, he looked and saw this beautiful little house in the side of the river. Slowly, these two sparkling, twinkling little eyes got bigger and bigger. Then, as he looked, it winked at him, and so declared itself to be an eye. A small face began gradually to grow up into a round, like frame, like a picture. A little brown face with whiskers, a grey brown face with the same twinkle in its eye that had first attracted his notice, small neat ears, thick silky hair. It was the water rat. Then the two animals stood and regarded each other cautiously. "Hello, Mole," said the water rat. "Hello, Rat," said the Mole. "Would you like to come over?" inquired the rat. "Oh, it's all very well for you to talk," said the Mole, rather pettishly. The rat said nothing, but stooped, unfastened a rope and hauled on it, then lightly stepped into a little boat, which the Mole had not observed. It was painted blue outside and white within, and was just the size for two animals, and the Mole's whole heart went out to it. The rat scuttled smartly across and made fast. Then he held up his forepaw as the Mole stepped gingerly down. "Lean on that," he said. "Now then, step lively." And the Mole, to his surprise and rapture, found himself actually seated in the boat. "This has been a wonderful day," said he, as the rat shoved off. "Do you know, I've never been in a boat before in all my life." "What?" cried the rat, open-mouthed. "Never been in a... You never... Well, What? You've never been in a boat? Well, it is so nice and all that." "Is it that nice?" asked the Mole, shyly, though he was quite prepared to believe, as he leant back in the seat, that it was. There was a beautiful cushion, and he sunk his little back into it, while the rat began to row. "Nice is the only thing," said the water rat. "Nice? Believe me, my young friend, there's nothing, absolutely nothing, half so much worth doing as simply messing about in boats. Simply messing," he went on dreamily. "Messing about in boats. Messing." "Look ahead, Rat," cried Mole suddenly. It was too late. The boat struck the bank full tilt. The dreamer, the joyous oatsman, lay on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air, and all you could hear was, "About in boats, or with boats, or around boats, or in boats." The rat went on. "In or out of them, it doesn't matter. Nothing seems really to matter. That's the charm of being in a boat. Whether you get away or whether you don't, whether you arrive at your destination or whether you reach somewhere else, or whether you never get anywhere at all, you're always busy and you never do anything in a panic. And when you've done it, there's always something else to do, and you can do it if you like, but you'd much better not. Look here, if you've really nothing else at hand this morning, supposing we drop down the river together and make a day of it." The Mole waggled his toes from the sheer happiness. He looked at Ratty and said, "Oh, yes, let's do it now. What a day I'm having," he said. "Let's start right at once." "Hold hard a minute," said the rat. He looped the rope around the ring, and then he scampered into his house. After a short interval, he reappeared, staggering under a fat wicker luncheon basket. "Shove that under your feet," he observed to the Mole, as he passed it down into the boat. Then he untied the painter and took the skulls out. "What's inside?" asked the Mole, wriggling with curiosity. Well, there's cold chicken inside," replied the rat briefly. "Cold tongue, cold ham, beef, pickle, salad, French rolls, sandwiches, potted meat, ginger beer, lemonade, soda water." "Oh, stop, stop," cried the Mole. He was in ecstasy, thinking of all that food in the basket. "This is too much." "Do you really think so?" said the rat. "Seriously, it's only, well, all the other animals seem to think I'm a bit mean and that I cut it a bit fine." The mole never heard what the rat was saying. All he could think about was the river, sparkling, rippling, the scent of the hedges, the river, the sunlight, and sitting in the boat, it was absolutely glorious. The water rat, like a good fellow that he was, rowed steadily on. "I like your jacket, Molly," said the rat. "I'd like to get one of them. I really would." "I beg your pardon," said the mole, pulling himself together with an effort. "You must think me very rude, but this is all so new, and I absolutely love the river." "Oh, the river," corrected the rat. "And you really, really live by the river," said the mole. "What a jolly life." "By it, with it, on it, and in it," said the rat. "It's brother and sister to me, aunts and company, and food and drink. Naturally for washing as well. It's my world. I don't want any other. What it hasn't got is not worth having, and what it doesn't know is not worth knowing. My goodness. Oh, times we had together. Whether in the winter, summer, spring or autumn, it's always got its fun and its excitement. When the floods come, it's there for me for drinking, and when the sun comes, it's there for just everything, and I absolutely love it. But isn't it a bit dull sometimes?" the mole said. "Just you and the river, and no one else to pass word with?" "No one else to... Well, I mustn't be hard on you," said the rat forbearance, "but you're new to it, and of course you don't know. The bank is so crowded nowadays that many people are moving away. Oh no, it isn't what it used to be at all. There's otters and kingfishers and dabchicks and moorhens, all of them all above, along and wanting to do something, as if fellows had no business of their own to attend to." "What lies over there?" asked the mole, waving his paws towards the background of the woodland, darkly framed around the water. "That? Oh, that's just the wildwood," said the rat shortly. "We don't go there very much." Aren't they very nice people there?" said the mole, trifling nervously. "Well," replied the rat, "let me see. The squirrels are all right, and the rabbits, well, some of them, but rabbits are a mixed lot. And then there's Badger, of course. He lives right in the heart of it. Wouldn't live anywhere else, if you paid him to do it, dear old Badger. Nobody interferes with him. They'd better not," he added. "Why, who should interfere with him?" asked the mole. "Well, of course there are others," explained the rat in hesitation. "Weasels and stoats and foxes and so on. They're all right in a way. I'm very good friends with them. Pass the time of day when we meet and all that, but they break out sometimes. There's no denying it then. Well, then you can't really trust them, and that's the fact." The mole knew well that it was quite against animal etiquette to dwell on possible trouble ahead, or even allude to it, so he dropped the subject. "And beyond the wildwood again?" he asked, "where it's all blue and dim and one sees what may hills or perhaps may not, something like smoke or towns, or is it only cloud drifts?" "Beyond the wildwood, the wide world," said the rat, "and that's something that doesn't matter either to you or me. I've never been there, I'm never going, nor you either. If you've got any sense at all, don't ever refer to it again, please. Now then, here's our backwater at last, where we're going to have lunch." And that's the end of that one. So the next one we have will be when we have our picnic by the river. Hope you all have a nice sleep tonight, and I'll love to talk to you tomorrow. Love you all millions. Bye.